What's up, Nessa Honey Girls YouTube channel? I just wanted to do a little story time because last week, or the week before, I'm not too sure, my toe is still healing, I ripped my toenail off. So let me just start from the beginning. I was dropping off my niece at her ballet practice, and to enter the ballet, there's like a door that pulls out like this, right? And on the bottom, there's a metal kind of like stopper thing, maybe to like, you know, so air can't get in or whatever. And so that metal piece is like on the bottom of the door. And I'm carrying my niece like this because she's in her little ballet slippers and I didn't want it to get dirty. So I'm holding her like on my hip and I grabbed the door with my right hand. And like in my head, before anything happened, I'm picturing myself like pulling the door open and like letting it gracefully swing behind me as I walk in with my niece, right? And so I grab the door, everything's going fine at this point. And I pull it, like you have to pull it pretty hard for it to like swing behind you to walk in, right? I pull it hard, and as I pull it hard, that metal piece goes directly under my toenail, like my big toe, like my left big toe, all right? So I'm sure you can imagine this in your head. And like my toe's right there, and boom! And I, pulled very hard, there's no reversing what just happened. And I feel it go under my toe, but it stops. So like on the right side of my toe, like pretend this is my toe on the right side, is like still good. It kind of stops like towards the middle a little bit. Anyways, I'm like screaming inside, but I don't want to like scare my niece or any of the other little girls about to like start their ballet practice. So I just like hold it in, screaming internally. I like set her down inside. I'm like, okay, have a great ballet practice. Then I walk outside and I'm like, ah! And then I like look down and there's just like blood all up in my slipper, blood like going from my toe, like out of my toe, under my toenail. And I'm like, this is terrible. I don't know what to do. This has never happened before. Like, what do I do? So obviously first I call my mom because my mom works as like an ER receptionist, like checking in people. And so I'm like, Mom, is this ER worthy? She's like, no, people laugh at you for coming in. I'm like, then what do I do? Like, what do I do? And so I call my dad and he's like, well, I'm on my way home, probably like 40 minutes. I'm like, no, not gonna work. Like, I cannot wait that long. But you'll find out soon at the end of the story, I could have waited that long because I waited longer. So anyways, I call my grandpa and I'm like, Papa, what do I do? He's like, you need to go to the doctor. And I like call my sister and she's like, yeah, they're probably gonna like take the whole toenail off, like completely, if you go to the doctor. And I'm just like, this is terrible because this like happened to my nephew before. They took the whole thing off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like so many mixed reviews. I call my sister. She's like, no, just my other sister, sorry. And she's like, just come over, I'll clean it up for you. It's fine. Like she's a brain surgeon, so I mean, she can clean a toe. But anyways, I'm like, no, like too many mixed reviews. And obviously, if someone's saying to go to the doctor, like I'm going to go to the doctor. So obviously it's not ER worthy, as my mom said. So that means it's urgent care worthy. So I go to the urgent care. And I'm like in there. I'm like, my toe's throbbing. It has its own heartbeat. Like I can feel pain. Help. And they're like, it's going to be a wait. Probably a 2-hour wait. But, you can just sit there and wait. I'm like, do you have a first aid kit? Can I clean this up real quick? Like, the blood is going to dry. It's not going to feel good. It's going to get infected. Like, I'm Googling every possible thing about my toe. And, I mean, I'm reading about a hematoma, if there's blood under your toenail, like, all this stuff. I'm freaking out sitting in the waiting room for 2 hours, okay? So, for 2 hours, I am sitting there with a bloody toe. Literally everyone else in the waiting room is like, oh, that looks bad. Like, yeah, it does. It hurts. And I'm sitting here because all of you have to go before me because you got here before me, even though my toe is, like, throbbing. And not to say that my toe is more important than whatever the reason they may have been there for. But I pretty much felt like I was dying and my toe was going to fall off and never grow back. So I also researched that it was, like, 18 months for your toenail to grow back, so I'm freaking out that they're gonna like take it off. And anyways, I go back to the lady and I'm like, I know I'm still waiting. This is probably like an hour in of waiting. So I did wait the 2 hours, but like an hour in, I go back and I'm like, so like, can I just like use something to clean it? Because nobody has helped me. I'm still bleeding. It's drying up now. It's like hurting even more because the dried blood is kind of like lifting my nail more. And so she's like, I'll send someone out to wrap it up. And so literally someone comes out with like the gauze thing and the wrap, and she's like, yep, and she like just starts wrapping it. I'm like, you're not gonna clean it first? Like, she's just wrapping it with the blood still everywhere, and I'm like, this is terrible. And she's wrapping it in the waiting room, so everyone's just like staring. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so she wraps it. I'm still waiting like, the 2 hours, but like a half an hour after that goes by, and I'm like, F this, like, this hurts. And no one cares. And so I go to the bathroom, I take the wrapping she put on off, I like stick my toe under the sink, I'm like just letting the cold water like run over my toe. And I'm like, this feels great. Like, this is all I had to do. I feel better now. Anyways, it's like running, and then I like dry it, and I use the wrapping that she used and wrapped it back up so that they weren't like, what did you do? You're not supposed to touch it, you're supposed to wait. Anyway, so I wait, and then I finally get called in. This is the moment you guys have been waiting for. Alright? I get called in. The doctor comes in, and he's like, Like, he takes off, or actually, I take off the wrapping, so I take the wrapping off. And he looks, and he's like, sorry, that's my daughter. And he's like, yep. Like, I kid you not, this is exactly what happened. Yep, no, looks good to me. Was there blood coming out? Because obviously I just washed the blood off, but like you can still see blood like around the nail. You can see that it's lifting. He's like, yeah, no, looks good. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like, you're kidding, right? I did like 2 hours for you to say, looks good. Looks healthy. I was like, what do you mean? And so I'm sorry, but like, what do you mean? Like, it's lifting. It's throbbing. Like, what's good about it? What? I am just at a loss for words. Like, I'm for real looking for the prank camera show, like cameras, like from a prank show, because I thought that this was a prank. I'm like, he can't be real, like legit right now. Like, this can't be real. And he's like, no, yeah, just picture your nail as a Band-Aid, and then under your toe is like a cut. Like, if you had a cut on your arm and you put a Band-Aid on it, just picture your toenail as the Band-Aid. And I'm like, but you don't understand. It's throbbing. And the right side's still connected. Like, is it even going to grow back right? Like, you don't have to take it off. He's like, no, I'm just going to leave that exactly how it is. And I'm like, you're not going to, like, clean it, alcohol, hydrogen peroxide. And he's like, I mean, I could put some dressing on it. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what he means. And at this point, I already think it's a prank show. So I'm like, what do you mean? Like, ranch, Thousand Island? What do you mean you're going to put some dressing on it? Okay, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure the other half is laughing at me. The other half is like, what did he mean? Anyways, dressing is like a wrap, you know, like what the other lady did in the waiting room. And so that's what he meant by he can put some dressing on it. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, put some dressing on it. I was like, aren't you going to clean it first, though? And he's like, no, like alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, all of that, like, will kill the natural antibodies that your toe already has. And so, basically, I'm kind of overtelling the story already because it was such a frustrating moment for me. But basically, I waited for 2 hours for him to tell me, looks good. And he saw how, like, upset I was because I was just sitting there like, wow, I waited 2 hours for this. I could have been at home, like, with my kids. So then, after he saw how upset I was at his diagnosis there of nothing, he's like, I can prescribe you something strong. And I'm like, no, I don't want something strong. I wanted you to at least, like, do something, you know, that made me at least feel better about waiting 2 hours. But, anyways, yeah. I was like, all right, I'm just going to go home and take some Tylenol, call it a day, pop some ibuprofen, you know, dwell about how I waited 2 hours for nothing. And also, I did want to make this video to let anyone know if this ever happens to you, if your toenail, any nail ever comes off, do not go to the ER, do not go to the urgent care, because the urgent care was not urgent, and they didn't care. So, they should be called not urgent, don't care, not urgent care. End of story. Thanks for listening. I had to rant about this at some point because it was just like such a mind-blowing story to me, like experience for me, actually. And yeah, y'all had to hear it. So thanks for watching. Subscribe and have a great day. Bye.